Acts 27, verse 37 says, "And all of us in the ship were 276 persons. And when they had eaten enough, they began to lighten the ship by throwing the wheat into the sea. And when the day came, they could not recognize the land, but they did observe a certain bay with a beach. And they resolved to drive the ship onto it if they could. And casting off the anchors, they left them in the sea, while at the same time they were loosening the ropes of the rudders and hoisting the foresail to the wind. They were heading to the beach. But striking a reef where two seas meet, they ran the vessel aground, and the prow stuck fast and remained immovable. But the stern began to be broken up by the force of the waves. And the soldiers' plan was to kill the prisoners, that none of them should swim away and escape. But the centurion, wanting to bring Paul safely through, kept them from their intention, and commanded that those who could swim would jump overboard first and get to land, and the rest should follow, some on planks and others on various things from the ship. And thus it happened that they all were brought safely to the land. And when they had brought safely through, then we found out that the island was called Malta, and the natives showed us extraordinary kindness, for because of the rain that had set in and because of the cold, they kindled a fire and received us all. But when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, a viper came out because of the heat and fastened on his hand. And when the natives saw the creature hanging from his hand, they began saying to one another, "Undoubtedly, this man is a murderer." And though he has been saved from the sea, justice has not allowed him to live. However, he shook the creature off into the fire and suffered no harm. But they were expecting that he was about to swell up or suddenly fall down dead. But after they had waited a long time and had seen nothing unusual happen to him, they changed their minds and began to say that he was a god. We'll stop there. Okay, so just really getting a running start again. This is the prison journey that feels like it never ended because of the big storm that was going on. We see at the beginning, just as an emphasis, 276 people, which actually even in chapter 28 becomes important, that how many people there are there. They had, Paul had, he had been a witness to them, right, in the calm, saying, "Hey, God has talked to me. He's told me this." That was in 27:22. Bless you.
Thank you.
That everything's going to be fine. Everyone's going to be saved. So really what we see at the end of 27 is the fulfillment of Paul's vision, right? What the angel had told him there. And I still can't imagine how drained and wearied they were, at this point. I mean, I can't imagine. I stumbled on a verse of scripture in, I think it's in...
for 14 days they didn't eat anything. They were weak.
Yeah, because
it rained. On top of everything else, we found they believe it was raining. God,
it was awful. I wanted to share with you from Psalms 107. If you guys can go to 107. Psalms 107. I thought this was very interesting. When I first saw the reference, it's like, what? Why? Huh? Get with there? Psalms 107, starting in 23. Did you get it, Frank?
Yeah, from the beginning.
No, we're going to start at 23, 107, verse 23. And it says, "Those who go down to the sea in ships, who do business on great waters, they have seen the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. For he spoke and raised up a stormy wind, which lifted up the waves of the sea. They rose up to the heavens, they went down to the depths. Their soul melted away in their misery or their trouble. They reeled and staggered like drunkard men, and were at their wits' end. They cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distresses. He caused the storm to be still, so that the waves of the sea were hushed. Then they were glad because they were quiet. So he guided them to the desired haven. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his loving kindness and for his wonders to the sons of men. Let them extol him in the congregation of the people and praise him at the seat of the elders. I was doing a back study of this with Job, and when Jonah, and when he was, in the sea and getting all swallowed up and all that, and the men were deciding what to do with this man, right? Throw him overboard.
He was saying throw me over.
Right. No, we don't want to do that, right? Yeah. So one thing led to another to that set of verses. That's how I got to that verse was that. I just thought it was fascinating to hear a description from another's point of view, even many, many years later, right? Because Psalms were written way back then. But Paul knew the Psalms. He understood the scriptures. He was taught in this stuff. I am sure that the experience of the psalmist and the writing was on Paul's mind. And knowing how God controls and takes care of everyone. To me, that's where I think Paul gets that. That assurance that everything is okay because he knew who controlled the sea. Right? So that's, anyways, I just wanted to go into the background of that. As a reminder, in verse 40 of 27, it talked about casting off the angers. I think some translation had the word let go. Cut the ropes, right. That they were just going to be, okay, fine, we're just going to let it go because they had anchored out before and went on to that. And why I wanted to make mention of that was because we know in verse 1 of 28, it says, and they found out that the island was called Malta. So that then chased me into looking up things about Malta. And I don't know if your Bible maps have, or the one that Johnny gave us shows you the Malta one.
Yeah, maybe it does.
And you'll see how close Malta is to the northern shore of Africa, which is what they were afraid of going to, is landing there.
That's where the rock of Gibraltar is, and that's where those seas meet. And,
right.
And when we went through there, that's rough seas right there.
Yeah, it really is, yeah.
You went through there on your recent trip.
Yeah, on one of our missions, one of the trips we went on, we went through there.
Did you?
But it was dark when we went through there. You couldn't see hardly anything.
Oh, really?
Just the lights that were walking the channel.
Okay, yeah.
Because I was trying to make sure I stayed up to
To
catch
watch
that.
it, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You couldn't see
It's too
nothing.
dark to see it.
Too dark, yeah. And we didn't go back that way. We flew to home, so we didn't go when it was daylight. So
Apparently, on Malta, obviously there's some notable places that mark where Paul's ship was at.
Yeah, I think
they
they
call
do.
it like
They-
Paul's
I
Bay
think
or
it's called
Paul's Bay
the
or
Paul's
something
Bay or
like
something.
yeah, something like
I
that.
read that, yeah.
And other things like that. Well, apparently in that Paul's Bay, they found right about in that area. This is back in 1960ish or so. Apparently, they found 4 anchors.
Oh, really?
In about approximately at 90 at the same
The
depth.
depth?
Yeah, the 90 feet or whatever. Yeah, the fathoms was right there, and that's where they found them. Was there, and they're now in the Malta's navigation museum. There's 4 acres. The guy that was telling me about it, the guy on YouTube that was saying about it, was that. And all there is in that museum is just a sign that says 4 Roman anchors. That's it. They, no one can really prove that was Paul's ship, that was the ship, but it just, I don't know.
That's where it's located.
Yeah. It just
Like
an interesting.
New York.
Yeah.
Right.
Was there. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting.
And I read something where the ship they were on, they had like some guards carved on the front, and they had their names.
Oh yeah.
And there's something on that island that tribute to those gods or something.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So I'm like,
Oh,
look at
okay.
this.
How about that? So.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of cool to get bits and pieces of history
Oh, yeah.
that ties back, right? That
It is.
we can see that it's not just somebody, J.K. Rowling just writing a fantasy book,
No.
right? But that there are bits and pieces of historical
It's history.
things still today. I think
Yeah.
it's just neat. You mentioned about the names of the gods and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Malta was part of the Phoenician Empire, which were great sailors and the like. But the word Malta in Phoenician means escape. So it's almost like Luke was writing in verse 1, and when they had been escaped through, we found out that we're on the island called Escape. So he changed the language to the Greek or whatever, that Phoenician word that was there in the Bible. So the escape or the anyways. So that's about all I know about the island of Malta, other than the snakes, which we're going to get into. We'll have no snakes at all anymore. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I'm not trying to put anything mystical into that, like Paul shook it and all the snakes died. Not like that, but rather just through the years, apparently that snakes was a problem. And we see back in Matthew, remember when the 70 disciples were sent out to go do things? Jesus remarks to them that you will be fighting many things from Satan, including snakes and scorpions and stuff like that. So even in that time, there was a problem with snakes.
That's why some people think the thorn in Paul's flesh was eyesight, because he didn't see the snake.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I can talk about that. Yeah. Verse 2, and the natives showed us extraordinary kindness. So first I want to talk about the word natives. You guys have the word natives in verse 2? It's interesting that the root word is barbarians.
Yeah, barbarians.
But the reason why it's called barbarians is those who don't speak Greek.
Yeah.
That was the definition of a barbarian.
Yeah.
If you couldn't speak Greek, you were a barbarian.
If you weren't Jew or didn't speak Greek,
You were a barbarian, right? Just, I don't know. I have Conan the Barbarian in my head.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that word, I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the barbarian there. Showed us extraordinary kindness. I just wanted to visit that for a little bit. Why do you think? I can understand extraordinary kindness if it was Paul, the Roman guard, maybe the ship's captain.
But 200-something guys.
But 276 people showing that kind of kindness. It's a big difference between, welcoming someone into our church and 3 busloads coming to our church and us showing extraordinary kindness.
Right.
It's like, being overwhelmed. Or,
Y'all need to go to Covington.
we have this place for you there also.
Keep one bus in
We'll separate all the Baptist churches around.
It's like after a hurricane, though, taking people,
Yeah.
having shelter.
Yeah, exactly. And these are not other Christians.
No.
If you think about it, it's not like maybe there's a presumption on my part that only Christians understand about kindness.
Yeah.
But the reality is, even the pagans understand about kindness.
Yeah.
I think it's just something that is really that God just puts in everybody on it. And maybe through their lives, kindness is ripped away through their pagan life or something. I don't know. But in this situation, one of the alternate words for extraordinary kindness was the word hospitality. Was in there. And there was someplace, maybe it was in Genesis, early Genesis, it talked about blessing. If you bless my people, I will bless you. If you do not bless them, I will curse you, kind of thing. So it kind of seems to be all tied in there. And the reason why they were showing this is because of the rain. It was cold, set in, and they kindled a fire. So again, Luke doesn't use enough words for me here. My first complaint in heaven, right, is, Luke, why didn't you put more in details into all of this? Come on, give me that. They kindled a fire. One fire for 276 people? How big is that fire going to be?
It's a bonfire.
Or is it practicality that lots of fires, right, just to spread out? as I try to make a mental picture of how this is looking on the beach or close by, and maintaining some kind of order of this, all those prisoners and all the other people that are there. But they somehow did that. And verse 3, and when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire. Okay, so if we were Catholic at this point in time, Paul, who was considered a very high level, if you will, in the church politics. I mean, a significant figure, one that even in the Jewish people, he was a high authority. What Paul said, it went, that kind of thing. He was a leader with it. But we have this leader doing pretty much menial work, right? Just picking up sticks.
After just coming off
And just after coming off of this boat.
Shipwreck.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Coming off of the SS Minnow, just coming right off of it. It's just remarkable to me that Luke records that he was just picking up sticks, to help in the fire. Hey, to me, that's what a real Christian does. It doesn't say, well, I'm Paul, people. I'm here to save people. I'm not here to pick up sticks. Right. So I find that remarkable in the humility part of it, the humbleness that he laid out there. And so then we get to that. A viper came out because of the heat. So nice and warm fires, right? And fastened on his hands. So do you know anything about snakes? Because I don't. I always thought snakes bad. That's the extent of my entire knowledge. Snake bad, snake dead, good. That's.
A viper is supposed to be poisonous.
And it's supposed to be poisonous, right?
A viper, yeah.
And I always thought like a rattlesnake in my brain. A rattlesnake won't bite you and hold on to you. It's meant to bite and they back off.
Right.
Because of the way their fangs are and stuff
Right.
like that. But a viper, I don't know. I don't know anything about vipers. Why it hangs on. It just seems strange to me. I was really kind of hoping you guys knew anything about snakes and vipers.
I mean, I've heard of snakes hanging on.
Yeah.
I don't know if some are prone to it, or I don't know if it's the
The
variety.
shape of the teeth, it might have just somehow went in, got hooked, caught or something.
Yeah.
And he was still holding on, I guess. He didn't want to go back to the fire. I guess the heat, whoa.
Yeah. One commentator mentioned that vipers, because they talk about because of the heat, they don't actually curl up like a rattlesnake does,
Mm-hmm.
but they lay straight like a stick.
Mm-hmm.
And that when he was picking up the woods and the twigs,
Yeah.
that's how he got it, was like that. So
Well, I saw one time when I was in Vietnam, where we were with a lot of cane,
yeah.
and cutting cane, and one came out of the cane. It was probably hollow or something. That was a
Really?
I couldn't understand that. And I was just wondering, when reading this, I was
Yeah.
wondering if it was in the fire got to it.
Yeah.
But it may not have been cane sticks. It might have just been solid pieces of wood. I
Yeah.
don't know. But
Apparently
that
there's
little thought went through my mind, because I was like, how'd that happen?
on Malta, apparently there's a bunch on the beach of these brushes that they're not like evergreens, right? They come in season.
Okay.
So that wintertime they were all dried out,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So that's what they were. That area was known for, is to be able to take them and start a fire with them. So
Very good.
Yeah.
Very fast.
What I know about that here. And so it bid him and hang on to him in verse 4. And when the natives saw, barbarians, saw the creature hanging from the hand, they began to say to one another, undoubtedly this man is a murderer, though he has been saved from sea. So what is why did they think that he was obviously a murderer? And by the way, I think saying the word murderer means the worst of sin, the worst of transgression, right, is being a murderer as opposed to a thief or a liar or something like that. They use that level of, you must be a very bad person.
Yeah.
Right?
He's above the sea, but look what happened to
Right.
him. So
Why-
he must really be bad.
Why would they go to that? I mean, why go to the conclusion that he must have been a really bad person because he's gotten bitten and is about to die?
Well, I mean, I think it went back to the fact that, I mean, the way that people believed at that time, that if something bad happened to you, it was retribution for
Yeah.
something that you had done, right? I mean, Jesus even had to address that when it came to people who were lame or blind or whatever.
Said,
you know.
who sinned?
Who
you know?
sinned that this man is blind or
Right,
this man
right.
is lame
Yeah,
or whatever?
exactly.
So I think it was,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
So it wasn't just Jewish people's belief, but, you know,
Right.
these barbarians, if you will.
right. But you know, how often do we have Christians that do that today?
Yeah.
You know, somebody going through a rough time, well,
Well, what did you do?
what's up with his faith? Why he doesn't have faith enough to, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why Job's friends were
Yes,
taking the attitude
exactly.
they had.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you must have done something really bad.
It's obvious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the promises to the Jews was like earthly promises where
Yeah.
if you keep my statutes, you do this and that, I'll keep the pest away from your plants, I'll keep the enemy away, everything's
Yes.
gonna go good.
Yes.
So when they saw something bad happen, like, boy, you must have really did something.
Yeah, yeah.
So it makes me wonder when we have, we see people going through problems, if we just immediately presume that their problems are their own making.
Yeah.
They caused themselves as opposed to
Right.
other things.
And which causes us to do what? Run away
Yeah,
and not go to them.
right, right.
But
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you're right.
I don't want to be,
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. That's true. Very true. So you think they got some good, moral fibers, in you, when they said undoubtedly is a man a murderer, and though he has been saved from the sea, and then says justice has not allowed him to live. Has everybody got the word justice?
Mm-hmm.
Do you notice that the word justice is not capital J, but just a regular J?
Actually, it is in this one.
Is capital J?
Yeah.
Good. Good translation.
Yeah.
The alternate thing says it's a personification of a goddess. Well,
Right.
the word is justice is the word Dike, which is the name of a Greek goddess of Zeus, and that goddess was the justice goddess. It's the all the pictures show that this lady Justice was blindfolded.
Is that with the scales?
And that's what the scales that we
Yeah.
use
About-
in the United States is the blind.
About justice being blind?
Right. And of course that just spearheads tons of conspiracy people thinking how pagan the United States government is and where we get all of our Satan things from. But
Right.
aside from those symbols,
Right.
ology there is that this is capital justice, not a description, but of justice itself as a person, if you will, as an authority.
Yeah, because mine is small j, but there's a
Footnote.
footnote that
Uh-huh.
talks about, it says personification of a goddess.
Of a goddess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine has that too.
And what was the goddess' name again?
Dike.
Dike.
Dike. I don't know how to spell it, but I just wrote D-K-E-Y. Because I don't know how to, I don't know Greek. I'm a barbarian. Okay, so I thought that was interesting that it wasn't about justice not being served, but that this person didn't, apply justice or the right punishment. 5. However, he shook the creature off into the fire and suffered no harm. So first of all, he shook the creature off. That sounds so la blase, right? It just so like it was nothing.
Yeah.
If that was Howard, I'd be running around screaming like a
Yeah.
little girl. Get off of me! Get off of me! Ah! I would be way too dramatic, I think, with this. So he just flicked it off.
They say like if a boa constrictor or something like that bites you, the way his teeth are shaped, if you're trying to pull away, it just holds even better.
Really?
You got to almost go back the other way to
Opposite
get the
direction?
teeth to come out and
Okay.
then extract it. Yeah.
And-
So maybe he knows a smaller snake, it might be sort of similar.
Well, I think a boa constrictor thinks that everything is worthy of a meal, in my brain.
Yeah.
Whereas the viper just,
Oh, yeah.
maybe he just thinks he's overcompensating. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get this, Paul. I'm gonna eat this whole thing. He shook it off and suffered no harm. I had a reference of Mark 16, and I know why that reference is. I didn't need to look it up. At the end of Mark 16, which in a lot of scriptures, a lot of translations don't have a lot of it, Mark 16, because it talks about snake handling and talks about your faith, that if you drink the poison from the snake, and if you live, you show your purity and your righteousness, and if you don't, you die, and that showed that you didn't with it. All I can say is that was back then. I do not think it's wise for us to apply the Mark 16 model in our churches today.
But you were going to tell the apostles that they would have this power,
Right.
so that for the authenticity of the scriptures that they were sharing,
Right.
the gospel they were sharing, so
Right.
they could do this.
Right.
But it wasn't meant to be.
At least I don't
used
think so.
like this.
Right.
Oh, yeah. If you get bit, you're usually going to die.
Yeah. I'd rather express my faith in many other ways.
Yeah. And Paul was not doing this in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like bidding. It's
Exactly.
Just,
Yeah.
he just reacted.
That's true. I mean, he wasn't going, hey, look, I got bit by a snake, I want you to, it didn't seem to be like that.
It's just that he had that. He was under that. He was an apostle, and
Right.
so those signs were still with him.
But they were expecting that he was about to swell up and suddenly fell down dead. But after they waited a long time, however long that long time is, and had seen nothing unusual happen to him, they did what? They changed their minds.
Yeah. After 3 days.
Yeah, he was right.
It's something how he changed to from a murderer.
Yeah.
He must be God. He must be
Right.
God. Yeah.
It's amazing how their faith system is so fickle. I mean, it just flipped on a dime.
Yeah, now they're viewing him as a god.
Right, now they view him as a god instead. I mean,
Because every other experience they had on the island, when somebody got bit, they died usually.
yeah,
Then all of a sudden, they're expecting that to happen this
Yeah.
time too. Oh man.
yeah, exactly.
These are going.
All right, we are going to stop there. I don't want to get into the region next. Plus, we're actually past time with it. So we're going to stop at 7 and go from there. Okay. I just find it interesting that these Maltinians, people from Malta,
Motions.
the Maltans,
Or malts. It's the malts.
the malts. How they received them, how they thought, how God worked, and how Paul survived this and all of that. So I just find it interesting that Paul has an opportunity here now to witness to the Maltans.
Yeah, you gotta think that their initial thought was we're being invaded.
That what?
We're being invaded.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you got 270 people coming off of this ship
Yeah.
onto this island.
Yeah.
You know, so their first instinct wasn't to protect themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
but it was to show hospitality.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
what's-
amazing.
And
Yeah.
they might have, from being by the water like that, they might have been out in boats a lot of times in their lives and gotten some rough water. And so
Right.
for the
They
hospitality,
understand
they
it,
may
right.
say, hey, we've been there, and, we know how you must feel.
A kinship about that. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Me traveling overseas a lot and working with people that live in their culture, from Japan to England. You get to know the individuals as individuals, and you realize that they all still have the same problems, challenges that I do. They still go to a house that has kids that aren't perfect. They're kids, no matter what nation or nationality they are. They're that they still struggle with their mortgages and their everyday life.
People are people.
People are people, no matter where they're at. Yeah, and like something I guess we should actually learn that people are not necessarily our enemy.
Yep.
Yeah, but they're a gift from God, of God. Everybody is. Right? Okay, what are you guys praying for?